You don't have to get stuck on the default browser on your smartphone. Well, technically, you don't have to either, since there are a lot of browsers available to download on the Google Play Store. But it isn't easy to pick the best one out of the good hundreds, and because of that, you tend to stick unintentionally with the default browser. Hi there, this is Amit from PhoneRadar, and in this video, I'll be doing a comparison of the Opera browser with its mini variant. The major difference between these two browsers offering from the same company is that how they compress a web page. While the similar interface might deceive you, but these browsers are different in many ways. First, starting with how they compress the data. The original Opera browser renders the data on the phone while compressing the contents on a non-HTTPS web page with the help of an Opera Turbo service. The animations on a web page load perfectly just like any average browser, but saving you some percentage of data, and since the cache is downloaded on the smartphone, your data pack won't be used much. Browser cache means that a logo or images on that web page would be downloaded on the smartphone, so that whenever you load the different page on the same site, the framework content will not be needed to be downloaded again. While talking about the data compression on the Opera mini browser, this browser does it on every aspect including text and images, making it easy on the data pack. This browser uses the servers from Opera network and breaks down the web page accordingly to deliver the content as lightweight as possible. How much is the data compression? Now there is a lot of difference between the Opera and the Opera mini when it comes down to how much data is compressed by them. Here the data is compressed based on how the network is, as well as how far is a phone from the network tower, only if you are using the data network. With that, you are bound to get at least 50% of data savings on an average. Whereas on the Opera mini, the data savings is off the charts, as you can save up to 90% of the data. The compression here doesn't depend on network availability, although it is an ideal browser for those who surf on 2G data networks. Because of the low speed, this browser would compress almost everything it can via the Opera servers, and you would still be able to read the content. Remember, you can select to load the low quality images as well, which would further reduce the data usage. If you want a good surfing experience on your browser and would be happy with the average 50% reduction in the data usage, then Opera is the browser you should go with, as it has all. The graphical content on this browser is smoothly giving you a desktop-like experience while browsing the web. The HTML rendering allows the browser to view the JavaScript-heavy content site, including the likes of Google Maps, Yahoo Search, and many other heavy content sites. This compression is done when you enable the Opera Turbo option. While talking about the interface, the content on Opera is categorized under 3 tabs. First is the history tab, where you can access the recently visited websites and remove if you don't want. The second is the speed dial section, where you can put all your favorite sites in one place. You can add or remove sites from this dial. The third tab is the discover tab, that gives you access to all the latest stories happening around the world. This content is curated by the Opera team and is categorized by topic and region. Talking about the Opera mini, the experience on this browser isn't its USP. So if you're looking for great experience to browse, then this is not the browser for you. But it's your best choice if you're surfing the net through a 2G or low internet speed connection. The sole purpose of this browser is to allow you to load websites faster by compressing the data usage, and that would come at a cost with no fancy animations, but you will be able to read the content and see the images on the web page. The interface of this browser is streamlined, as the 3-tab section of Opera is converted into a single page, where you can see the speed dial and the top stories of the day, whereas the history can be accessed through settings. The data saving is by default turned on this browser, so you don't have to turn it on like the Opera browser. Having said everything about the functioning of these browsers, the question would be about when to use the Opera for Android and when to use the Opera mini browser. While the Opera for Android is a browser you should be using when you have good internet connectivity and want a better experience with almost everything loading without a compromise, the Opera mini browser for Android is one you should be using while traveling, when the connectivity is not good, or when data charges are high, or when the smartphone you are using cannot handle high content website in the browsers. Both the browsers are good, but they solve different purposes, and thus it's recommended to use the desired browser based on your requirement and the situation. This was the comparison of the Opera browser with the mini. Let me know if you have any queries around the same. This is Amit signing off, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to add a thumbs up and stay subscribed to PhoneRadar for more. Good day.